loud and just, create healing,
Yeah,
so yes.
absolutely. That's what it's all about, my friend. I
Yes,
love it.
yes, yes. Awesome. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And yeah. Alrighty, perfect. Let's go. Hey guys, it's your girl, Kayla Monique, aka the Unshattered Adoptee, and we are back with another episode here on my new podcast, The Unshattered Adoptee. And today we have an amazing guest today that we're interviewing. Her name is Michelle, and she is an international adoptee from the UK. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of pass it over to her so she can kind of explain what she does and kind of tell us her story. So, Michelle, like I said before, thank you again for being here on this episode today of my podcast to be able to pour into others by sharing your story, embracing your voice, embracing your story, and embracing self love. So, I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to you.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel tingly all over, but that's just how I always feel when I connect with you.
Uh huh.
Something amazing is coming
Oh, I
because
love it. I love it.
I think we have this shared um, energy of understanding the complexity
Mm-hmm.
of this adoptee experience and how it can make us feel so lesser than,
Yes.
and doing the hard, deep, sometimes excruciating work
Mm-hmm.
of getting back to ourselves and our truth
Yes.
and helping others to do the same. And, I always say, we've talked about this before, that there's miracle in the mess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think understanding that and, and really connecting to the power of our stories as adoptees, you know, coming from a place where we probably, I know I did, felt and maybe feel currently very disempowered, that there is a powerful, powerful healing balm within each and every adoptee story. And the more we can connect to that, then the more we can help unleash the voices of all adoptees and move
Yes.
down the path of healing together collectively as an adoptee community. So I'm just super grateful to be here. Um, and just saying all of that has taken, um, a lifetime of healing,
Yes. Yes.
recognizing that I had trauma. I would say, going back to my story, I was born in the United Kingdom. My birth father, Spanish, birth mom, English. My mom was married to another man. They had three children together. She had an affair with my father. I was
Mm.
and am the product of that affair. And I was secreted away after birth into foster
Mm.
care. And I write about it in my book, Let Us Be Greater, that my mom took me to my foster care um, on a cold day, cold morning, and it's described in my foster records that it was sort of chaotic
Mm-hmm.
in my foster carer's home.
Mm.
There was trouble with the chimney, and there were workers crawling all around trying to fix the problem. And my mom went and left me with my foster mother, and amidst all the chaos, she turned and walked away and out of my
Mm.
life. And um, when I read that particular part of my story in my foster records, which, by the way, took me 9 months of diligent work to um, access the
Mm-hmm.
story that is mine to
Yes.
possess. I had to prove that I was emotionally, mentally stable to read my own story.
Mm.
I'm so grateful that I have that document, but it does detail that moment of relinquishment and the chaos that was around me. But what it doesn't touch on is the chaos that was felt within me as a
Mm.
baby. I know it was there. I
Yes.
know it was there.
Yes.
But during that time, people didn't see that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was secreted away into foster care. I was in foster care for a time, but then ultimately adopted by Americans. And my name was changed. My birth
Mm.
mother gave me the name of Julia Dawn. My birth father's name was Julian, and so I was named after him. But my name
Mm.
she's been sort of made dormant.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that she's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how to get back to her, and I certainly, growing up, didn't feel safe to talk about her or even express
Ooh.
that loss and that grief that I experienced. And so I think, looking back at my young life, I mean, I'm a midlife adoptee now.
Yes.
But look back with that perspective of looking back on that little girl who felt so much chaos going on inside of her and not knowing, um, where she could find traction for
Mm-hmm.
herself to begin to peel back all the layers in all the ways I was being asked inside of my adoptive home to just move on, to just be grateful. What happened
Ooh.
before doesn't matter anymore. You know, I heard a lot of that messaging.
Wow.
And so I didn't feel safe to be me or even to understand what that meant in the first place. And so
Wow.
I grew up with a lot of questions about my identity. I felt a lot of shame for my story. Something must be wrong with me
Mm.
that my first parents would leave. Something also must be wrong with me because my adoptive father struggled with alcoholism. So there's something wrong with me,
Mm.
that perhaps if there was something right with me, my dad wouldn't drink.
Ooh.
He wouldn't say the harsh words to me that he would say on a daily basis. That somehow I was innately wrong. And
Mm.
I truly grew up with that feeling of being lesser than, not possessing worth, and just feeling so broken in my life. I mean, honestly, I used to say to myself as a little girl, maybe sometimes God just makes mistakes, and I'm one of those
Oh,
mistakes.
wow. Wow. That's so powerful, but at the same time, with not saying those exact words, I can truly, truly identify with that. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay. And
yeah.
with you feeling that, let's can we dive a little bit deeper on when that journey of you starting to healing kind of came about? How did that start for you? And what was it like? Were you afraid to embark on that journey? You know what I mean? Did you have support around you at all when it came to that? Or was it just truly you and, kind of developing that self love and that self courage to be able to do it?
I think it's the latter. I developed, self love, self courage, and a self belief, because the pain just became so great that it wasn't sustainable anymore.
Mm.
And I had to find a way out. And I didn't sit with therapists.
Okay.
I always sought out, more alternative modes, alternative modalities of healing, um, spiritual healing,
Mm-hmm.
um, was sort of where I felt guided and directed. And I met some incredible healers along the way. Now I have discovered that I'm a healer too. And
Yes.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I would
Yes.
never have thought that. Younger me would have never thought that I'm a healer. But for me, it makes sense because I am a healer. And
Mm-hmm.
that God has given me the gift of also being able to heal myself
Yes.
and the discernment to know the safe pathways for me, the safe people for me, those sacred moments, those points of light, points of grace that He ultimately directs me toward to find the healing that I'm worthy of. And so the very first moment that comes to my mind, I write about it in my book, is, I went to see, Maury And the music was so tender and so beautiful and so loving, and he started to sing these words: lately I've been looking in the mirror, slowly tearing myself apart.
Oh my
And when he said
goodness.
that, I started to sob.
Mm.
And my former pattern would have been to run away, to avoid, to box that part of me up. It was too scary, it was too powerful, it was too messy, and I would have left.
Mm.
But I didn't, because this mountain of a man was sitting on top of me. And he continued to play, and he sang songs that just hit the core of my soul, my being. And I cried, and I couldn't move. And I cried so hard that I just felt exhausted. At one point, my body just sort of relaxed. And once I felt that relaxation, he continued to play, and then he stopped, and he got off, and he whispered in the other ear, "Don't be afraid."
Mm.
And he wrapped me in the sheet covering the massage bed into the fetal position.
My
And
gosh.
he said, "I'll be back." And he left the room, and the music continued to play, but I couldn't move because I was wrapped in this fetal position. And I cried, and I cried, and I
Oh.
cried. I mean, ugly tears.
Yeah.
Snot coming out of
Yeah.
my nose. It felt like out of body experience. So to close the story, he came back in,
Mm-hmm.
and he slid down the wall next to the massage bed, and he said, "I'm sorry for the abandonment of your parents. I never told him anything about my story. I'm sorry they left you." And I said, "They did. They left, and it has hurt for so long." He goes, "I know." And then he said to me, "Michelle, dis-ease is stored in the bones, and we have to go deep to find it, to excavate it, to pull it out,
Mm.
or it will cause you disease."
Ooh.
So I recognized in that moment that I was living in such a place of dis-ease, physically,
Mm-hmm.
mentally, spiritually, emotionally, because of this deep, 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 deep seated wound that wasn't just in my bones. I felt like it became my bones.
Mm.
And that he was giving me an open doorway with this knowledge to begin to advocate for myself and step on this path of healing. And that was when it truly all began for me. And I recognized dis-ease is a powerful thing.
Mm.
And we do hold so much within us. And in my coaching, I call it unboxing.
Mm-hmm.
Those parts of ourselves as adoptees that we've boxed away because the world has told us it's not okay, it's not acceptable to show those parts of you.
Yes.
You have to be this or this or that.
Ooh.
And
Yes.
so to ignore all of that, this man was giving me the permission to begin to unbox all of those places and come back to me a more powerful version of who I am here to be, and to truly step on the path of healing. And it's the work that I first started doing on myself
Mm-hmm.
that I have grown. It has evolved and advanced, and now I work with adult adoptees in this same work, because we deserve to feel fully alive, fully connected with our identity and our truth.
Absolutely. I just want to say that was so powerful. Like, you literally brought tears to my eyes. Like, oh my goodness. That was just so powerful, so beautiful, so vulnerable, and so real. Like, oh my gosh. I know that that right there, the way it just made me cry, I know it's going to touch somebody else and impact them. Like, oh my goodness. That is just beautiful. So, thank you so much for sharing that. Now, I know you said that you work with adult adoptees now, and you also have an amazing book that you have wrote and released. And I kind of want you to kind of share on how that journey has been going. And also, because I know for me, with doing this podcast, and ever since I started sharing my story, it's really been a healing process for me as I share what I've been through in a way to turn my pain into purpose. So I would love for you to touch on what you do now, and how you're able to turn that story that was once, like you said, a pain in your bones, and that just really kind of depleted you, and I identified you and isolated you. And I just want you to share with people, what are you doing now? And again, is it something that continues to bring healing on your journey as an adoptee, and as you continue to help others and pour into others?
Oh, absolutely. I used to tell myself that I came into this world alone, I'll leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need anyone. It's safer that way. I really
Ooh.
had a lot of walls built up around me, and those walls once protected me, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were a protection mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
But as I grew and as I matured in life, I recognized that those walls that once protected me are now imprisoning me, and I don't need those walls around me
Mm-hmm.
anymore
Mm-hmm.
because they're not serving me.
Mm-hmm.
And if I want to live as my higher self, I have to connect with my deeper self, right? The deepest parts of who I am. And so, I wanted to write a book that was just a gentle guide for healing for this beautiful adoptee community, because I believe in each and every one of us
Yes.
so greatly.
Yes.
So let us be greater, is that sort of call to action. Let us be greater. Let us lead our lives forward. Let us dismantle any barrier, any box that is telling us the lie that we're not worthy and we can't have the lives that we hold so deeply
Mm-hmm.
in our hearts, right? If it is there, it has been seated there within you for a reason. And we have
Ooh.
to unlock every part of us that is holding ourselves back or keeping us stuck. And so
Yes.
let us be greater really looked at what I in my coaching have found to be the eight um, most significant pain points that adoptees struggle with. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll quickly read them. They're in the
Absolutely.
introduction of the book. It's the pain of feeling unwelcome in the world. I
Mm.
felt so unwelcome in my own life for so long. The pain of broken bonds and that deep, deep sense of
Yes.
loss that we are not allowed, given permission to express. We have to give ourselves that permission. The pain of being denied access to truth,
Mm.
blocked from our truth. The pain of familial rejection and the words that harm us. The pain of distrust, the pain of banished biology, the pain of pleasing others versus pleasing the self. I am a recovering people pleaser. That's how I thought I would be safe, right? And
Yeah.
loved and accepted. And the pain of lack of transparency and acceptance. And I think that last one, lack of transparency and acceptance, it is so important to give ourselves that first and foremost.
Yes.
To be transparent with ourselves. What is holding me back? What is it that I need? And to accept ourselves first and foremost. And I learned, I was visiting my my country of origin, the United Kingdom, one time, and I was sitting out. I went on a long walk, and it started to drizzle. It was raining, as it always does in the UK. I love the feeling of that rain. I got to tell
Mm.
you, that moisture in the air just feels so much like home to my soul.
Oh,
And I
that's
sat
beautiful.
down in these tall grasses, and I was looking around me, and I thought, I've always asked for permission to come back. Once I reunited with my birth mother when I was 15 and started coming back to the UK on a regular basis to see her,
Mm-hmm.
I always thought I needed her permission or someone else outside of me, their permission for me to return home. And in that moment that day, I said, I don't need anyone's permission. I accept myself. I am going to be transparent with myself that I need to return home. This is my home. I have the power to claim my home, and I give myself permission to do that. And it was in that moment that I truly just really welcomed myself into the life that I've been given,
Mm.
others about how we should feel about being adopted, what that should
Yes.
mean and look like for us. And
Absolutely.
it is so important to discover that on our own. And we have the power to do that individually as adoptees. But you know what? When we come together and we are able to completely, fully take in, I'm not alone,
Ooh.
and I need this community. I
Yes.
need others. I need to be able to say, oh, you feel that too? You've gone through that as well? Me
Yes.
too. I think
Yes.
that's powerful. I mean, even saying that, I get the goosies, right?
Yes.
Because it
Yes.
was a moment of transformation for me, is
Mm-hmm.
to understand truly that I didn't have to do this alone. And I could let the walls down and I could lean into community, and I would be seen, safely seen and heard and accepted and loved within a community of people who truly understand my journey as I truly understand theirs.
Yes, I love that because one of the things I definitely say is it's one thing to be able to sympathize, but it's another thing to be able to empathize when you've actually walked in those shoes, where sometimes you don't even have to say anything. A person just knows. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's just enough. You know what I mean? So I can completely understand 100% with that. And with your book and everything that you're doing, you have so much, I feel like you have so much experience, you know, because you've been on this journey for a while now. And I would love to hear what is something that comes to your mind right now as we're having this conversation that you feel is, what's the word I'm looking, valuable for someone in our position as adoptees, and unboxing like you said, and coming out of the fog. What is something, some words of encouragement that comes to your mind right now that you would want to pass along to other adoptees that are on their journeys?
Just in this moment, put your hands over your heart and close your eyes.
Mm,
Deep breath in and exhale, and know that you're worthy. You're worthy of living the life that makes you feel fully alive.
yes.
And you do not have to compartmentalize your life anymore. You can truly come home to yourself and take the lid off. I mean, you said that to me in our last conversation. I wanted you to just take the lid off of those
Yes.
boxes, right?
Yes.
Lid off of anything and everything that is holding you back. It doesn't mean that we blow up our lives, right?
Right.
And it means that we have the capacity, capability of taking a box. For
Mm-hmm.
me, the first box was the box of silence, because I
Yes.
grew up in a pretty volatile household. My adopted
Yes.
home was volatile, and you never knew when my dad, when the flip was gonna switch and he was
Mm.
just gonna go off. I learned to be silent. I
Right.
learned to choke off my truth and
Mm.
not to say what I was feeling.
Mm.
No wonder I struggle with autoimmune disease of the thyroid. There was so much that was packed away in my throat, because I
Yes.
lived in um, this environment of uncertainty, never knowing how he was going to react, and
Absolutely.
wanting to avoid the explosiveness of his nature at the time. That
Absolutely.
box of silence, of feeling like I had to stay a secret. I had to keep the secret of my dad's alcoholism. I also had to keep the secret of me, because I knew that
Yeah.
I was a secret to so many in my birth family,
Yeah.
black back in the UK, and my connections to Spain via my birth father. I was a secret. And
Right.
so I just felt like I had to stay silent. I had to be a secret.
Mm.
These were the rules that I had to live by.
Mm.
And when I began to open up that box and gently look at what was inside of it and all the stories, I would say to those listening that understand this, our thoughts hold power.
Mm.
So thoughts that you think on repeat, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy, become the beliefs. My belief is I am not worthy. And then that becomes our reality.
Ooh.
Thoughts are like building blocks. They build our beliefs. Our beliefs create our reality. We have to start
Mm.
Where did the seeds of that originate? And
Yes.
let me start to dismantle it, because the truth of it, the matter is, I am worthy. The
Yes.
things that happened around me do not define me.
Yes.
And then little by little, we start to break down the thought patterns that are holding us back, and we step into thoughts that are truth filled and love filled, life
Yes.
affirming. And those beliefs change, and we become different. We become different people.
Mm-hmm.
And claim our worth, and we claim the lives that we are here to live,
Yes.
not the lives that we're being told to live. We
Mm-hmm.
become our own. We claim our agency. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, just to
Yes.
start with the thoughts that you're having and
Yes.
get curious. Understand it's not who you are, it is just a thought. But they're powerful. So we have to understand them, and we have to shift, choose better feeling thoughts when they're not inspiring us forward,
Mm-hmm.
when they're telling us that we're not worthy, when they're telling us that we have to stay stuck inside of these boxes that ultimately do become our prisons. We can free ourselves. And I think that would be the message that I would want to send, that you can start today. You can
Yes.
start today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And before we go, what you shared in the beginning, I loved it how you said to put your hands over your heart. So I want everybody listening right now, put your hands over your heart. And I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose, hold it, and then let it out. And hopefully that brings some peace, some calmness. And if it does, sit with it. Hold on to that. And before we end, I want you to tell people how they can follow you, how they can purchase your book, how they can continue to be inspired by you and what you do.
Thank you so much. And your comment about breath and the exercise, it's that quick,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that powerful.
Yes.
Because when we connect with our breath,
Yes.
we connect with life, and we connect with present moment.
Yes.
And in present moment is when we connect with truth,
Yes.
right? The
Absolutely.
past and the future, they don't exist anymore.
Absolutely.
Breath brings us right into truth and present moment. And that is a powerful gift to give to yourself. And it takes only a few seconds. Thank you for that. My book,
Yes.
Let Us Be Greater, A Gentle Guided Path to Healing for Adoptees. You can find information about it at my website, themichellemadrid.com. Please come and connect with me on Instagram at themichellemadrid. You can also find Let Us Be Greater on Amazon or wherever books are sold.
Awesome, awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. That was an amazing conversation. And guys, like she said, follow her, check out her book, check out her page. She's an amazing, amazing adoptee, okay? An amazing person inside and out. So, thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode of the Unshattered Adoptee podcast. And we'll see you next time in our next episode. Take care. Ah, yes, that was amazing.